Hi, I'm Rachel Brown-Finnis, and you're listening to the Football History Boys podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Football History Boys podcast with me, Ben Jones, and as always, my good friend Gareth Thomas.
It's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, what's been going on, Gareth? What's been going on?
Well, we've been both on holiday, and we talked about that last episode. We said that we were having a little break. We've had a couple of weeks off. We've both been catching some sun outside of Wales.
I've lost it all now, though. Come back. It's rained every day.
Yeah. It's the classic, isn't it? The school holidays start and the weather turns and rain starts. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've also both moved house.
Yeah. We are currently actually in my new house, which is pretty much upside down at the moment. I mean, this room is almost come together, but there's toolboxes and hose pipes and bin bags everywhere.
It's very grown up.
It is very grown up. Yeah. There we are. Well, how's your new place?
Yeah, good. It's great to be back. I've been living in England the past couple of years. I'm back in Wales. It's going to be great to be teaching back in Wales again. So I'm excited for that in the new school year.
Brilliant. Right, so this week's show, what are we talking about?
Well, obviously the Premier League season started. All football started, but in particular something that's sort of struck the Premier League in the first few weeks, as we predicted, as I think everyone probably predicted, was VAR, wasn't it? VAR, video assistant refereeing. Two incidents in particular for the new champions, or the reigning champions, Manchester City. In the first week, Raheem Sterling having a goal ruled out for offside by, was it 1 millimetre? His shoulders 1 millimetre offside. VAR spotted that, and obviously the controversy around that. But then on Saturday against Tottenham, live on Sky, Martin Tyler, Gary Neville. A late goal by Gabriel Jesus to beat Tottenham. They'd had 30 shots. Tottenham had had 3. They had dominated the game. And then in the 94th minute or 93rd minute, Jesus scores. Gary Neville goes crazy. Martin Tyler goes crazy. This is what champions do. This is why they're the best team in the Premier League. And then a full 2 minutes later, after Jesus has celebrated, he's done his own personal celebration. Aguero and Guardiola have hugged on the sideline because they've fallen out in the match and they've hugged and made up. We've seen a replay of that. We've had a whole eulogisation of how good Man City are, and then it cuts and the goal's been ruled out because of a handball off Laporte. And so we want to talk about some of those major rule points and changes in the history of the game. There's been a number of them, and we've talked about them before the show. We'll talk about them today. But what are your thoughts on VAR so far? It's 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
It's a major point. I know it's modern, and we're talking Football History Boys, but this will be a point that we look back upon that totally changed football.
This was one of our 50 most important moments in football history, the introduction of VAR. So how is VAR so VAR? Last year, World Cup 2018, I thought it was amazing. I thought this was brilliant. They used it quite often. When they used it, it was quick, it was efficient, and it cleared up any things that were a bit iffy. And then as it came into Champions League, and as British teams were affected, this whole conversation has started up. And I think it's because the other European leagues, so Spain, Italy, Germany, they've all been using it for a season already. They're all used to it now. And we're not used to it at all. I think the bigger thing is not the VAR, it's the introduction of the new rules. Can you tell us about those new rules?
The handball rule, yeah. So we've chatted about this, won't we? The incident, I'm sure many listeners have seen it, most have. It flicks off Laporte's hand. The ball comes in, it's a corner. It touches Laporte's hand. You can hardly see it on full motion, full speed replay. It comes right across. You think it's sort of flicked off his head, perhaps. Jesus, lovely finish, really, really perfect finish to the bottom corner. When you see it on the slow-mo, it flicks off his hand. And the new rules passed down that's going to be implemented across the English game this season is that anything that happens to flick a hand and lead up to a big incident like a goal is going to be ruled out. So that's whether it's just touches someone, say elbow, like it did with Llorente in the Champions League against Man City last year. Even if it's accidental, they've taken out accidental out of the game. It's just that if it touches a hand, it's ruled out. And therefore that Laporte chance that did touch his hand on his way through to Jesus, by law, is a handball.
Yeah. I think if you're a Man City fan, you probably hate VAR at the moment because it happened to them.
2 incidents, even though they won
season,
5-0. But
against Tottenham last season, Champions League.
Of course.
Exactly the same thing happened.
Yeah.
Last kick of the game, and it was just
Aguero offside, wasn't it? Yeah.
But the goal before it, Llorente's goal,
had
grazed his elbow, hadn't it, before it went in. But it was given because it was the new rule had him introduced by him.
Because I've seen a lot of Man City fans saying, how is this fair? Well, the point is that the rules have changed because of that. I saw someone reply really nicely to a Man City fan who was kicking off saying, no, listen, because of that incident, this is why this rule has come in to say, actually, we're going to scrap did he mean it or not, and we're just going to say anything that touches a hand. And so by letter of the new law, VAR was used perfectly there because it's touched his hand. And we talked about... if you're playing fantasy football and you had Aymeric Laporte, you would have got an assist for that goal. The assist would have come off his hand. So actually, the only part of his body on the way through touched his hand. So I do think, actually, in that case, it was used well. What people didn't like, that it was a full 2 minutes afterwards. As I said, Jesus would celebrate with the team. Then he'd done a personal celebration. Then Aguero had hugged Guardiola. There'd been loads and loads of sort of time where it could have been implemented, where I guess they were checking it, but people in the stadium don't know that's happening.
Yeah. If you're a Tottenham fan, though, you probably love VAR. Yeah. Speaking of Tottenham fans, I have a quote here from Jermaine Genius, who tweeted the other day about VAR, because a lot of people are complaining that it's taking the emotion out of football. And he said, wow, people keep telling me VAR takes the natural emotion out of the game. I just went from punching a hole in the sofa to a full knee slide in the hallway. Hashtag Man City Tottenham. Hashtag VAR. So there we go.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, it's true. And in the game last week between Wolves and Leicester, Wolves had a goal ruled out. And so Nuno Espirito Santo, their manager, was saying after the game, I hate the fact that people are celebrating no goals now. We're here, we love the game, we celebrate goals. And he was annoyed that the Leicester fans had celebrated like a goal the fact that their goal was ruled out. And so, actually, in many ways, really, it's we're just going to have to get used to this change. That actually, you're going to have to think, this could be ruled out. And that's what people don't want. People want that lose it. In a stadium, the best thing when a goal goes in is just to go crazy, to hug the people around you, to enjoy a goal.
Yeah.
And yes, things will change initially. I think we're going to find it a bit strange. What I was wondering on the way over, I was driving over, will we start to see maybe, I don't know, it's going to take a long time before football does this, will we see almost the honesty that we see in like cricket, where if you've nicked the ball, people walk out.
Yeah.
Gilchrist was very good for it for Australia.
Joe Root, was it? Did he not walk at all time?
Broad didn't walk at one point. Yeah, Broad didn't walk, and that was against the spirit of the game. Now you'll see players go, actually, I have nicked that, if they know and it's not been given, or if it's sort of half and half debated. Will we get in football in a year's time? Maybe. I think it'll take a long time before this happens. Will we get Laporte going, no, that's come off my hand, that's going to be ruled out? Because we know it's going to get caught. Once it gets caught another 50 times this season, will we start getting players going, actually, no, that's come off my hand? And maybe that's not a bad thing, because players won't want to go crazy celebrating for the goal to then be ruled out because of the deflation it causes.
Yeah, and in terms of the offside one with Sterling last week against Man City, I mean, if you're millimetre offside, you're offside at the end of the day. So
it's so difficult. What's your thoughts on offside? The only way you can solve that is by scrapping any part of the body that can score.
What part of the body would you have?
Would you just go feet? And if your foot is a millimetre offside, maybe, because the feet is what, obviously, even if you don't score your feet are what have taken you to the ball. They've propelled you to get to the ball.
Yeah, you could probably go feet.
Because you could then say, people could lean in offside positions. Well, that's no benefit.
So again, you'd have to change the law. It's not VAR's fault, is it? I mean, as the law is, he was offside there, so it has to be disallowed.
And that's where when people are slating VAR, the only thing you can slate perhaps is the time that some decisions take. But I think the Premier League have done very well in putting on the big screens in all the stadiums, that there's a VAR check going on. I think it's only Anfield and Old Trafford where they haven't got screens, isn't it? So they can't actually tell you what's happening.
Yeah.
But everything else really seems to, I think it's cleared a lot of things up. And there's going to be controversy, and people are not going to like it when it's against their team, and they're going to love it when it's for their team.
I think if it wasn't there and Man City had scored that goal and everyone had seen on a replay that it had hit Laporte's arm, there would have been an uproar on social media and everyone going, that shouldn't be disallowed, and then Liverpool fans probably saying, typical Man City getting away with it all.
They had to rule it out.
Been calling for it then.
They had to rule it out, and as soon as I had seen it, and I was watching it with a friend, and we saw it, and our jaws literally dropped. Like, I couldn't believe it. We were saying, Man City, they've done it again. How incredible. But when it flicked his hand, we said, actually, you've got to rule that out, because you can't now see that in a world of VAR and not give that, especially with the new handball rules.
So I've just set up a poll on the Twitter page. If you were wondering why I was so quiet for the last sort of 5 minutes. So I've just written VAR ? And there's two options. It's great or get rid of it. So far, we've had 63% saying it's great and 37% saying get rid of it. So
good. We'll check on that at the end
we'll keep you informed.
Keep on that on the end of the show. Okay, great. So we've talked about VAR and how that is going to change football for now. We will have a little break, and then we'll look at some of the other major rule changes in the history of the game that have influenced the game that we love.
Lovely.
Welcome back. What we're going to do then, we're going to discuss some of those big rule changes in the history of the game. Just two that we'll touch upon really briefly. We talked about them in episode 3. Make sure you check out that in all your usual podcast places if you haven't yet. Professionalism, 1885.
Yeah.
Just briefly tell us what happened with professionalism.
That was when the original game of football was an amateur game, so people playing for the love of sport. And as football began to get more and more popular, as the game disseminated up through the country, the northern working classes took it to their heart, started playing it, but obviously because they were working class, they needed some sort of money to play the game, and eventually this funding for the game led to calls for the game to be professional and for people to be able to be paid in order to play. And
incredibly controversial, wasn't it, at first?
It was massively controversial. But
it was legalised in 1885, and it meant that players could now get paid like we see today. So obviously a major moment, as I said, we discussed on episode 3.
And that helped to obviously help to create a football league.
Yes, yeah. Another one that we sort of highlighted, but we talked about again on episode 3, was Bosman. The ruling that allowed players to move for a free transfer at the end of their contracts instead of being tied to their clubs. They were able to move on and join another club on a free transfer like we see today. So obviously both very important moments, but we talked about them last week. Let's then stop in the year 1962. This is one of the ones I'm bringing as a key moment.
Okay.
Red and yellow cards.
Yeah.
1962 World Cup in Chile. A fight broke out.
Battle of Santiago.
Yeah. Fight broke out between Chile and Italy.
A few fights.
Yeah, a few fights. It was a brutal game. If you've ever, or if you haven't seen that, have a look on YouTube. There's some videos.
We've actually written about that.
Yeah.
But I think we wrote about it for a different website when we were starting out, and that website has since ceased.
So maybe we'll find that blog and repost that. Yeah. Crazy game. Refereed by an Englishman though, Ken Ashton, an English referee, and it was something like 12 seconds was the first foul of the match, and it sort of set the tone for the game. So and you could remove players at this point. Around 12 minutes in, he wanted to remove an Italian player.
Yeah,
and so he tried to remove him from the pitch, but there was a bit of a language barrier. I guess Brits aren't particularly good at speaking other languages. Italians, he didn't speak English, the bloke. And so he didn't understand the request. He couldn't leave the field, and therefore there was a bit of a, how are we going to sort this out? So Ken Ashton, and the story goes, and I don't know how much of this is spot on, but he goes home after that World Cup, and he thinks, how can we find a new way? The game needs to find some way of communicating with all different languages. Of course, it's a global game now by 62. And he says this quote, while I was driving in his car, the lights turned red, and I thought, yellow, calm down. And red is obviously stop or leave the pitch, go out.
Yeah.
And so he figures out these two colours, these two codes that are clear for everyone. Everyone has traffic lights of the same colour, whatever country you go to. And so in 1970, the red and yellow cards are introduced for the first time at the Mexico World Cup. It's a good pub quiz question. I've been at a pub quiz where that's been the question. So there you go, listeners, enjoy that. 1970 Mexico World Cup. Obviously, they're still used today. So would you say red and yellow cards have been successful?
I think they've been very successful. And, I mean, people still talk about the rules with red and yellow cards. Maybe following rugby's example and introducing sin bins.
Sin bins, yeah.
So there you go. I mean, when did rugby introduce cards? Do you know?
No, I don't know. But I think, sin bins have been talked about with football, hasn't it, over the years. Certainly for things like diving as potentially sin bin, or descent, a sin bin. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe in a future podcast we will be discussing a rule change in that way where they bring in sin bins.
I've got a famous clip from the 1962 World Cup. I think most listeners would have heard this. It's about the Battle of Santiago. I'm just going to play it quickly now.
Good evening. The game you're about to see is the most stupid, appalling, disgusting and disgraceful exhibition of football possibly in the history of the game. Chile versus Italy. This is the first time the two countries have met. We hope it will be the last.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's why they got cards.
Yeah, that's why we got cards. Obviously, I was just thinking about Renio cards. That crazy game. Do you know which one I'm thinking about? Which game?
Battle of Nuremberg.
Of course. World Cup.
16, wasn't it? 16 yellows, 4 reds.
Ridiculous.
I mean, even the World Cup final 2010, Holland against Spain.
Yeah, that kung fu kick.
About
Xabi Alonso, wasn't it?
Yeah, Howard Webb just lost control of it.
Yeah, but that Portugal v Netherlands game, oh, what a game that was. That's where, I don't know if necessarily the referee lost control. I think the players lost control. The referee just tried to, he just had to be fairly consistent. In fairness to him, he was. But that famous image, isn't it, of the players sort of sitting next to each other, almost laughing about what was happening.
Yeah, at the very end.
They'd been dismissed. Yeah.
Van Bronckhorst and Deco, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, what's your big rule change then? We've got cards. What's your big rule change?
Mine is substitutions in football. Very important rule. Used a lot now.
Wouldn't be without them now, would we?
No, so... Yeah, 1958 was the first time they were used officially. But in 1954 World Cup, it had been used by, I think it was by the German team, when they shouldn't have. So yes, substitutions was one at the time. You could use one substitution and from your subs bench. And as time's gone on, by the late 80s, they introduced 2 substitutions to a game. And then by the early 90s, mid-90s, 3 substitutions. And that seems to have been where they've stayed.
Well, actually,
recently.
Yeah, I was going to say, with some cup competitions now, isn't it, if it goes to extra time, you're allowed a 4th substitution.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much across all leagues now, isn't it? They've agreed that.
That's pretty universal.
Yeah, been accepted. I think that's a good idea as well. Obviously, playing extra half hours football. What's important about substitutions now is the fact that they are tactical, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
time wasted a lot, aren't they?
Back in the day, substitutions were obviously for injured players. We talked about before players who have gone on with injuries, have played on. Obviously, Bert Trautmann's one of the famous ones with a broken neck. Carried on, finished the game, the goalkeeper for Man City. But there's been a number of sort of discussions. I think often I went to the rugby on Saturday, England versus Wales. Wales beat England, lovely, at the Millennium Stadium.
Yeah, brilliant. Number one in the world now.
And there was a discussion there, and I overheard it, and often as there is with some rugby fans don't like football, and the other way around, but they were saying...
They always call it soccer.
Soccer, don't they? Yeah. They'd be like, oh, look how hard these players are being hit, yet they get straight back up. You wouldn't catch that in soccer.
But they are also massive.
Yes.
They're huge men.
But also, then you get the incident of Gareth Anscombe, the Welsh fly half, did his cruciate ligament. Now, obviously, anyone who plays Football Manager or just knows football, if the cruciate ligament comes up as a flash word, you think, oh my word, that's 9 months out. Gareth Anscombe played on for 20 minutes with his cruciate ligament out of place, snapped, whatever has happened to it 2 weeks ago. And part of that is perhaps that rugby attitude of you get back up, you carry on. Whereas in football...
But he's probably made it worse now.
Yeah, he probably has.
He's probably gone out for more than...
He probably has. Whereas in football, Marlon Pack then for Cardiff, for example, on the weekend, he went down, he wanted to carry on, but the referee, the club doctor, straight away signalled for a substitution. Off he comes. So obviously we see the substitutes for injuries, but we also see them for the tactical changes of let's switch up the game, and you get the likes of Guardiola, or maybe more negatively Mourinho, going let's park the bus more, or let's open the game up more. So I think substitutions, we wouldn't be without them now in terms of what they can do. How often do you get a sub that comes on that changes the game? More on the weekend, 19 seconds into the game, he scored. So actually, I think substitutions, are one of them key moments.
I've got a good story here from 1889. So the first use of a substitute in international football was on the 15th of April 1889, and it was between Wales and Scotland. And it's a funny one because what happened was the original goalkeeper failed to arrive at the ground. So a local amateur player called Alf Pugh started the match and played for 20 minutes until the arrival of another goalkeeper, Sam Gillam, who took over him 20 minutes into the game. So that's the first ever use for a substitute, and it was a Welsh player. So there you go.
There we go. Good. Little question for you here. I've looking at other major rule changes. Football boots. When was the first football boot in history recorded?
First football boot in history?
Yeah.
I'm going to say 1520.
Oh, you're only 6 years out. That's not bad. 1526.
Henry VIII.
Henry VIII ordered a pair of football boots.
Were they Nike?
They were Nike. Actually, I've got that question then. When was Nike's first football boot?
1978.
Oh, again, not far. 1971.
Oh, flipping heck, I'm doing amazing.
Yeah.
Guess the year later.
1971. Good practice. The first shoe to bear that famous sort of Nike tick, that swoosh.
I know Adidas or Adidas was earlier, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Adidas was the first football boot. So I was looking at that, and I think so in the late 19th century, the late 1800s, nothing was allowed to project out of the shoes worn by footballers. So they got rid of studs. There was no
grappling hooks.
Yeah, it had to be flat shoes. And that sort of maintained up until really the 1950s, where Adidas produced a studded pair of boots. We've talked about the team in the past. We loved them, the Hungarian team, the mighty Magyars, Ferenc Puskás, Sándor Kocsis. They had boots, and they were sort of revolutionary.
Yeah.
I think boots are important. Obviously, now you have to have certain rules on boots. But another moment that definitely deserves discussion is the back pass rule.
Huge because I think I mentioned it last week. I remember as a kid watching my dad's VHS of Liverpool Team of the Decade, and I'm thinking as a kid, why do they keep rolling the ball back to the goalkeeper? And that seems to be a running joke, doesn't it, with Liverpool? They haven't won the league since the back pass rule has been changed.
Yeah,
because they were pretty good at using it. But yeah, that's a huge rule change. What year did it happen?
So it was 1992. I've been looking it up, and I think we'll talk about some fan opinions at the moment. A lot of people agree that this was a really, really important moment. Actually, I've heard with the handball rule and VAR, people saying that this is the biggest change since the back pass rule, since 1992. Denmark famously won that Euros in 1992, and there's Peter Schmeichel, the goalkeeper, obviously, who would benefit from the back pass, reportedly said that he was embarrassed by the way Denmark were doing it. What they would do back then, and if you watch old videos, especially in the Italia 90 tournament, which people have criticised heavily as a boring one where the back pass was used almost tactically.
It's a funny tournament, actually, Italia 90, because fans, especially English fans, seem to say it's one of their favourite World Cups because they look back at it nostalgically, thinking, Italia 90, they had Pavarotti singing, and then we got to semi-final and Gazza was crying.
Yeah.
But in reality, the actual football was really...
a terrible tournament. And part of it was the back pass, that teams would get into a position where they would just pass it back to the goalkeeper, they pick it up, and actually It just means that things are, it kills the game. You can see how it kills the game. I can't imagine football now. Obviously, we're later than 92 in terms of us getting into football. What a different game it must have been where the goalkeeper pick it up. And so, 92 is the first incident of it. I've got some stats here of when it was first, when it first fell foul. So it was the 1992 Olympics, the Summer Olympics. It happened where the rules came into effect. And Italy were the first team to fall foul of the new rule. USA scored from an indirect free kick 15 yards from goal. So obviously that happens now. You sometimes still see it, don't you, where the free kick inside the box. So Italy were the first team to be punished for it. The first incident in British football resulting in a free kick and a goal was in the Scottish leagues, and a match between Johnston Burr versus Benburb.
Oh, those huge teams.
Yeah. In August 1992. 58 seconds into a league match, the goalkeeper, Raymond McQueen, picked up the ball.
Raymond, we can do it.
And as a result, the goal was scored. So it must have been really hard to adapt to, of course, like people are struggling perhaps with the handball rules and stuff. It must have been really strange. It changed the game. And it says here on some of the quotes I was looking at that it now begins this sweeper-keeper mentality where keepers have to be good with their feet. You can't just pick the ball up and roll.
I like that, though. I like that. Like Victor Valdez. He wasn't very good with his hands for Barca, but he was amazing with his feet.
Yeah, we could play the outfield, but he wasn't particularly the best keeper in the world. Yeah, and obviously you look at Alisson and Edison, in Premier League today, who are phenomenal.
Not Adrian.
Not Adrian. Yeah, that was on the weekend mistake. But yeah, I think the back pass was incredibly important. Mm-hmm. Let's look then at some fan opinions, because I think we've asked.
I was just going to add one more in there. Speaking of Italia 90. That was also the last World Cup to have 2 points for a win.
Okay, good point. Go on.
So 3 points for a win, I think is one of the biggest rules. 81 it came in first in Britain, and what it meant was less negative play. A bit like getting rid of the back pass rule. By introducing 3 points to a win, there was more of an incentive for teams to go out and win a game rather than play for a draw. Because if you got 1 point for a draw and 2 points for a win, draw wasn't that bad. Whereas now, sometimes if you concede a goal later on, you draw a game, it feels like a defeat. Yeah, because you've lost 2 points, not just that one. So that's a big rule as well.
Absolutely, good point. Okay, so here's some of your opinions. Graham Turvey, crossbars. Did you mention that bit? Of course, having a crossbar.
Yeah.
Important in terms of a goal now is a goal.
It's pretty clear now if it goes in or not.
Yeah.
So what that'd be in Victorian times? One of the first ones,
changing the offside rule from 3 defenders to 2.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
That's a very good point. Yeah. So that's a more attacking play as well, isn't it? Yeah. More goals, yeah.
Outside right, we've mentioned them before. Brilliant blog, brilliant website. Surely in recent years, it's got to be the back pass rule, so he agrees. It opened up the game. Italia 90 was the last World Cup where we had to put up with the time wasting. We still got time wasting, I guess, but sort of time wasting of that sort, yeah, absolutely.
Reece Crabtree as well, increasing the sin bin time from 2 minutes to 4 minutes at goal 5-a-side.
So that's the 5-a-side centre in Cardiff, isn't it?
Because he plays for my 5-a-side team. And he's had a few blue cards there, a few sin bins recently. So there you go.
Maybe we'll see that happen in future.
Yeah.
We've also got someone who said substitutions ended the 11 versus 10 due to the injury farce, which quite like VAR ruined matches. So he doesn't like VAR. He's not a fan of VAR. But also the tweak allows tactical changes. That's what we said, wasn't it? Yep, brilliant there. I think it's pretty universal. Actually, people think that there's really there's been some positive changes. But you put out a tweet saying, what new rule would you add if you could? So what were some of the replies we had to that?
Just tweeted that, haven't I, just now? Right, so we've had... Okay, the first one is from Alan Seymour. He says that harassing the referee should be an immediate red card and a minimum 4-game ban. So quite strict there. But, I mean, we are seeing it quite a lot. Maybe not as much as we were seeing it 10 years ago with the Barcelona team.
You know what I think would help that would be... like rugby, ref mics. I think ref mics really help that. Yeah. Because what it would do is show really, really clearly those players who are abusing the referee. I think there's nothing wrong with players discussing things with the referee, and often it looks angry because I guess in the heat of battle or whatever. But maybe there needs to be a clearer line on if you are abusing the referee for a decision. Certainly with things like VAR, where there's going to be controversy for a little bit. Bring in ref mics, play it to the fans. That's brilliant entertainment anyway. But it also clears up any misconceptions.
It's one of those things that needs to be introduced heavily at grassroots. Just you harass ref, you're off. Yeah. And ref, yeah.
But the same with fans in that way.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't referee because they get so much abuse. Right, next one. Someone says here, Jack Ray says, the whole body of the attacking player must be beyond the last opposition for the offside decision.
Oh, we had a bit
to be offside, you've got to be the whole body. John Rogers has said quite a few actually. He said that one of the rules should be that there is no obvious colour clash of kits. Both teams will wear the designated and recognised home kits. Okay. Colour clash, yeah, that can be difficult, especially, I said earlier, didn't I, when Man City play against Chelsea and they often wear the sky blue against the dark blue, and it frustrates me. This is another strict one. All supporters wearing half and half scarves must sit together in a section of the ground designated by the home fans.
That's hard. I mean, yes.
I feel like
I bought
scarf thing has got big recently. They've been around for forever.
I've bought ones for cup finals. I would never do it on a Cardiff versus Luton Town. But
I've got a Cardiff versus Barnsley one. Cup semi-final.
I've got FA Cup final.
Team, but still.
I've got a playoff final. I've got
a few international.
Carling Cup final. I think they're good to remember those special moments, but. Yeah, I don't like them for the everyday game. I can't believe that Cardiff versus Luton Town half and half.
Yeah, that's just that's madness, isn't it? Yeah. That's from John Rogers. Reece Crabtree again. He says, topical, and I'm not sure how they enforce, but they have to get stricter on racial abuse. The fines handed out to clubs are genuinely laughable. He is absolutely correct.
Yeah,
they have to be much stricter. It's coming far too VAR too common at the moment with in football. The fact ref mics again, which especially on the pitch, but off the pitch, it's happened more and more. Clubs giving out bans to fans, who give the abuse, but I think they need to be bigger fines.
And likewise with things like Twitter, the abuse that we've seen. This week, Paul Pogba racially abused.
Stupid, isn't it?
Tammy Abraham racially abused. Harry Maguire makes an interesting point. He tweeted, "It's disgusting. Social media needs to do something about it. Every account that is open should be verified by a passport or a driver's license. Stop these pathetic trolls making numerous accounts." I mean, I don't know how easy that'd be to police, but yeah, certainly things like that. And clubs have got to get stricter if they catch fans racially abusing people. Then yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right, I'm just going to tell you how the poll's going on the VAR poll. So earlier in the podcast, we tweeted VAR ? It's great or get rid of it. Okay, do you want to know?
Go on.
It's 50% each. So split down the middle.
And I think that pretty much sums up VAR as it stands, absolutely. Okay, let's have a cup of tea, and then we're going to come back, and we've got a couple of quizzes, with a new quiz too for you guys today.
Okay, welcome back to the show. We're going to do our quiz now. So first of all, a few weeks ago, we asked you the question. Here it was. What's different about the recently launched limited edition Sabutio set featuring Arsenal and Chelsea teams? And we had an answer from Jesterbrook, which his Twitter is @thealmightyQuinn. And he said they are women's teams. Yes, it was a women's team set of Sabutio. We did get a blog called Sabutio Online who answered saying, can we answer or is it cheating? And we said, yeah, it's cheating, so you can't answer. So there you go, they got that question. So your questions today. You ready, Gareth?
I'm ready.
I feel like you did a bit average last time, did you?
Yeah, although I went to a pub quiz last night.
How did you
We did okay, but my specialist subject, which is a weird specialist subject, of American presidents came up. 4-letter, one-syllable surnamed presidents. And I got all 5. Taft. 5. Taft. Bush.
And Ford.
One more.
Oh, right. So there's five.
This
Grant?
is when I think that. Nope. 4 letters.
Oh, 4 letters. No. I don't know. Go on.
Polk.
Polk. There you go. That would have been a lot of dead air time if I guessed that one.
I got 35 out of 45 though, and I had to write them down. But anyway, that's just my little sad bit of knowledge.
Play, well done.
Quiz time, let's go.
Okay. Dubbed the longest away trip in English football, which 2 teams played 4 times during the 2009 and 10 season?
Well, longest away trip. Well, maybe, and presumably this is professional football as well, not? Is it professional football?
Yeah.
Plymouth versus Carlisle?
Oh, you got one of the teams right.
Plymouth?
Yeah.
Versus further up north then?
It'll give you a clue, it's in the championship. It was in the championship at the time.
Oh, of course, yeah, that's been the same league, I guess. Plymouth versus Middlesbrough?
No.
No, they would have been
It
Premier
was
League.
near Middlesbrough.
Sunderland?
Next one.
Newcastle?
Yes. Newcastle and Plymouth. Well done, not bad. I'll give you half a point for that. I'm gonna start pointing you actually.
Okay.
Now. So half a point. Right, okay. Next question. Which Chelsea footballer played every minute of the season when they won the domestic league in 2017?
Gary Cahill?
Are you sticking with that?
No, because you said that. So, 2017... Cahill did play loads.
He did play a lot.
My good friend Tom Portsmore absolutely adores Gary Cahill.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to now go on, I'll go Gary Cahill.
Okay, it was Cesar Azpilicueta.
Oh, okay.
Right, next one. In 1997, which player was the first to score a hat-trick of headers in the Premier League?
Give me the year again.
1997. Hat-trick of headers.
What a random question that is.
I know, but I think if you know your Premier League history, you'd probably know it.
Yeah, should be straight off the bat with that.
Yeah.
Shearer loved a
We
header.
were 4 years old at the time.
We were 4 at the time. My football brain doesn't sort of kick in until about year 2000, really, for me.
Yeah. My brain didn't kick in until 2000.
Yeah. I'm going to go just because he loved a header, Alan Shearer, but I don't think it is.
You are incorrect. It is Duncan Ferguson for Everton against Bolton. There you go. Right, next question. I think you might get this
questions.
one.
Okay.
I think you have quite an obscure football knowledge, I feel.
Okay.
And I think you'll get this one. Well, maybe. Right. In the Northern Ireland Football League, name Belfast's big 2 clubs.
Shamrock Rovers.
Pretty sure they're Republic of Ireland, aren't they? Shamrock Rovers.
Cliftonville.
You just say it's Northern Ireland teams.
I don't know if they're Northern Ireland. They're Northern Irish. Cliftonville.
I think that is one. But that's not one of the answers, but that is the team.
Belfast Rovers.
Okay. I thought you would have got this. Okay, no. Linfield FC and Glentoran.
No, I've heard of them, yeah. Sorry, I just didn't know.
I've heard of them because they're on FIFA.
Yeah.
Right, so you're on half a point so far.
This is terrible.
Next question. Which English club went 32 consecutive league games without a win in both the Premier League and Championship between September 2007 and September 2008? You'll know this, won't you?
I think, is that Derby County's terrible season?
It is Derby County's terrible season and a bit more because of Championship.
Robbie Savage's captaincy there, he talks about that on his podcast quite a lot, of how bad their time that was. Yeah, was it 11 points they were relegated with?
Absolutely dreadful.
Oh my word.
So you finished that on 1.5 points.
And I'm sure listeners, I hope they've done better than that, because that was...
I think they might have. It's a hard quiz.
Cliftonville Rovers. This wasn't even them, was it? Was it Linfield and Glentoran? Yeah.
Okay,
fair play. Okay, let me quiz you back. I think you're going to do better at this. You've done well on Guess the Year so far.
Let's get quizzical.
Let's get quizzical. Okay, here we go. As you know, you've got to guess the year each round, and I'll tell you if you're right or not. First one. Niagara Falls opens to the public as a reserve and a visitors park.
That happened in 1923.
Lovely. Dr. Pepper is officially patented, so not necessarily invented, there's a debate over when it was invented, but patented in the USA in December.
That was in December 1888.
GCSE history students, you should be getting this one. I've taught this to GCSE history students, if there's any listening. Louis Pasteur and Emile Rowe successfully tested the rabies vaccine on a boy called Joseph Meister who'd been bitten by a dog. So they successfully cure someone of rabies, a really significant moment.
So what I've got to think about now is the last one's obviously going to be a significant moment in football history. So I've got to think about the years that are important. So that's why I've done 23 Whitehall's final and 1888 Football League.
It may not be that specific. I don't want to make it too obvious for you.
Okay. Rabies. Louis Pasteur, I've heard of him. 1900.
Okay.
1901.
1901.
Yeah.
Queen Victoria's death, I think.
I thought I'd see it. My hope was that was going to be the next clue, but it obviously isn't.
Boxing's first heavyweight title fight with 3-ounce gloves and 3-minute rounds. So this is sort of how boxing became to look real, or like we see it today. 3-ounce gloves, 3-minute rounds. Fought between John L. Sullivan and Dominic McCaffrey.
1910.
Okay. Question 5. Charles Dow publishes the first edition of the Dow Jones. So Charles Dow publishes the first edition of the Dow Jones.
Financial stuff, isn't it?
Financial stuff is the stock exchange in America. It was represented the dollar average of 14 stocks. This is a quote of 12 railroads and 2 leading American industries. I don't really understand the stock exchange anyway, but
1901 again.
1901. Okay. Victor Hugo, French author. Hunchback of Notre Dame and Les Mis dies. So he dies 83 at the age of 83.
Now you're talking. Right, 83. 1890.
Starting to bring it in a little bit is a football one for you. Luton Town Football Club is founded in April of this year. Founded by the merger of Luton Wanderers and Luton Excelsior.
Well, if I know my Luton Excelsior... What a name. They should have definitely kept that one.
I know.
1890 again.
Professionalism is legalised in the British game.
1885.
1885.
I was close with Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, you were close. I worried you were close. But I'm glad I threw you a little bit with Louis Pasteur. Yeah.
5 is up by the end. Okay.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
That was a good one. Tough.
Good. Okay. Here is your viewer's question. If you want to get in touch with us, remember you can on Facebook, the Football History Boys, on Twitter @TFHBS, and our email, thefootballhistoryboys@hotmail.com.
Okay, right. The question for the listeners is: Sir Stanley Matthews' ashes were buried beneath the centre circle of which football club's ground in 2000? So read that again. Sir Stanley Matthews' ashes were buried beneath the centre circle of which football club's ground in 2000?
I'm sure
got an idea?
There'll be people who get that straight away out there.
You got an idea?
Yeah, I think so. I'll tell you off air. Okay, let's have a final break and then we'll come back for our last 5 or so minutes.
Yeah.
Okay then, our final section today. Just chatting about how the season's gone so far. And one of those things... So far. One of those things that I'm really keen on, as you know, is fantasy football, the official FPL Fantasy League.
Yeah, I'm pretty into it these days as well. I'm pretty religious into it now. I didn't used to be, but I am now.
How have you done so far?
So far. I am 33rd out of 48.
Brilliant.
I'm on 102 points.
Not too bad.
Not bad. How are you getting on, Gareth?
I am top of the Football History Boys League.
And your team name is?
Le So Solid Crew.
Mine is Flying Without Ings.
My Le So Solid Crew has been mine since I started FPL, which was about 6 years ago. I'm not changing that. I like that. Le So Solid Crew.
Special mention to my brother, who's 5th, Wijnaldum Leviosa.
Good. There's some cracking names about. It's all gone. Shane Long, John Smith, good name.
My five-a-side team have all joined, and I think the highest out of the five-a-side team is Matthew Chapman, Vamos Legotes, who is 8th at the moment in our league.
Brilliant. If you want to join, you can do. The code that you need to tap in is hhtkhy.
Special mention to Tom Pemberton, one of my good friends, his team, Hakuna Juanmata, are currently down the bottom with 60 points. So they had, I think he made about 6 substitutions last week, but didn't use a wild card or anything, and lost a lot of points.
8 minus 28. Foolish. Because he's being chased down by
Jack Foolish.
My experiment. Only Brits, please. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to play it like some people's attitudes, perhaps, in this country. I'm only having British people in my team. As an extra team. I'm going with an extra team.
So this is like an experiment one.
A Brexit 11. Yeah, I've never done it before.
Oh, no.
So I'm going to start with just British players. I'm going to play the whole season with just British players as my side team. Classic Brexit. I started a week late. I thought about it after the first week, and so
this in no way reflects our own opinions. On it.
In no way at all. But I did start Brexit late, like Brexit's late. I mean, that's a fact. Yeah. Brexit's late. I started my Brexit 11 late.
Right.
And so, Raheem Sterling saved me a bit there. But yeah, we'll see how that gets on as well. We'll see if that can make up any ground. Cool. Absolutely. Don't want the Scots in there if it's a Brexit 11, because you can't trust them with Brexit, can you? It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
Yeah, okay. So, we actually made our predictions last week for the Premier League season. Yeah. We'll just quickly say, would you change anything if you could change it now?
I didn't anticipate Chelsea losing 4-0 to Manchester United.
I don't think they deserved to lose 4-0 on that game.
No, I don't think they did.
But might not have been anything special either.
However, I think they are looking solid. In terms of fantasy, I think I want Martial in. I don't know how I can fit him in. I'm going to have to play about with that. I'm going to have to save up some transfers and do a couple, maybe even a -4. I think Martial is absolutely key fantasy-wise because he is playing up front. And so he gets extra points.
So would you put Man United into your top 4 now?
It's only 2 weeks in, so it's really early to say. I think they are a young team that could well fall away. However, to come away 1-1 from Wolves and look fairly defensively solid, to look solid. I know Chelsea are going to struggle with the transfer embargo and young players as well. I think United could have a decent season.
I think United will still not make Champions League. I don't think a team which relies so heavily on players like Scott McTominay, and I know Daniel James is Welsh, but he's not a top 4 player. So I don't think they're gonna get to the top 4. I think Arsenal are better.
I think Tottenham's result against Man City, even though they got spanked in terms of their the stats, 3 shots versus 30 shots. So relevant is that they've taken a point away from the Etihad. That's a very good point. Good point as for you with the title. Harry Kane saying Tottenham can win the league. Don't know, but I'd like to see a 3-way fight. That'd be brilliant. 3-way fight. Yeah.
I still think it'll be a 2-way fight though.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
I think the less said about Cardiff City start to the season, the better. I'm not excited after the first 3 games.
3-0.
So let's not mention that.
Okay.
News from the women's leagues, though. We had a transfer?
Yes. Alex Greenwood, so the England left back who was captain of Man United's team last season, who got promoted to the WSL.
Yeah, had a very good season
in their first ever season. So Casey Stoney's team.
Yeah.
Alex Greenwood, the captain. She's signed for, guess who?
Probably Lyon, the big team.
Yeah. So Lyon, who seem to just get everyone. Yeah. They got Nikita Paris now, Lucy Bronze, now Alex Greenwood. Yeah. Signed for £40,000. Now, last week a few weeks ago, we mentioned transfers and how in women's football it's very rare to get any sort of fee for a transfer.
Yeah.
But this is one, £40,000, so quite a big amount of money. And I think it shocked a lot of Man United fans that she's gone.
So it'd be interesting to see whether that has a sort of a bigger impact on
they got
transfer
an incredible team at the inside.
Oh, it's stupid, isn't it? It is stupid. Okay, well, you've got a bit of a different game for me that you've come up with. You're obviously moving house. You've dug up some old magazines.
Yeah, so moving house. I had to go to my parents' house and get my old magazines and boxes of.
They're turfing them out now, are they?
Yeah. So it's actually my brother's. It's my brother's Panini football sticker album, the official PFA collection, 1997.
PFA founded, of course, by Billy Meredith.
Yeah, who was mentioned in episode 1.
Yeah,
a bit short. Yeah. So this is the Panini football sticker album, and basically, it's not like a conventional sticker album. it's not done by teams, it's just done by players in alphabetical. So it goes through all the different players, and what I noticed is, or what my brother noticed actually, was that each of the player has a little quote. And some of these quotes are kind of a bit out there and a bit silly.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and a lot different to what you get these days with players, okay? So I've written down the names of 6 players, and I'm going to read you the quotes, and you're going to guess who said it, okay? Listeners, you do the same. Right, so here's your players. You got Jason McAteer, who was at Liverpool, David Platt, who was at Arsenal, Stuart Pearce, who was at Nottingham Forest, Ray Parlour, who's at Arsenal, Gary Pallister, Man United, and Steve Nicol, Sheffield Wednesday. So I'm going to go in a random order. Let's start here. Okay, who said this? I'll probably carry on being an electrician when I retire.
Oh, great question. So who of them may well have been an electrician? I'm going to go with, I think that may well have been Ray Parlour.
Okay. I'll tell at the end which ones you got right.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we also noticed actually that they have the weight of the players in here, which is quite funny. So there's a player from Middlesbrough here, Nigel Pearson. I guess that's the referee, isn't it? Yeah, the manager. Sorry, he's 14 stone. That's pretty heavy footballer. Anyway, right, next one. Okay, who said this? I can't help my hair; it just grows like that.
Oh, maybe that is Ray Parlour.
You can change. If you want.
He had some terrible barnets, didn't he? Okay, I may put that Ray Parlour, and I'll put the electrician as Steve Nicol.
Okay. Next one. Okay. I have a weakness for peanuts. Who said that?
Who loves peanuts? I think Stuart Pearce likes peanuts.
Okay. Yeah, Stuart Pearce.
He's a bit of a peanut.
Yeah. Okay, who said this? I became a very good cook in Italy, and now I own a restaurant in the Midlands. I don't know why you would say that in a sticker album, but that's what I
It's
said.
so weird that would be your quote, that, PFA contact you, whoever it is, saying, listen, we're making a sticker album, what do you want to be your quote that everyone sees?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
I became a very good cook in Italy, and now I own a restaurant in the Midlands.
just promoting his restaurant, I think, fair play to him. Let's go with Gary Pallister.
Okie doke. Okay, next one. I had a very lucky escape when I fell through ice while walking my dog.
Oh, brilliant.
Who said
David
that?
Platt.
Okay. And next one, the last one. The other Liverpool lads say I'm thick. I'm not. Am I? Am I?
I think that's got to be Jason McAteer.
Okay. Right. Do you want to keep them or change them?
I'll go with it. So I'm going to go with Jason McAteer.
Okay. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Who the ice one was Steve Nicol.
Okay.
Peanuts was Gary Pallister, who weighed 14 stone 8 as well.
Cool. Too many peanuts.
Yeah. What else we got? Hair was Ray Parlour. Well done.
Yeah.
Electrician was Stuart Pearce.
Okay.
And
He didn't
restaurant
stick to electrician,
No, he
did he? No, managing and punditting.
kind of average manager. And David Platt owns a restaurant.
Brilliant.
So you got 2.
What a great game.
I quite like that. That's coming back next week. The PFA sticker album, 1997.
Maybe you should tweet one out and see if people can get.
Yeah, okay. I'll tweet one out.
Lovely.
There's quite a few good ones in here.
Well, it's been good to be back. As we said earlier, get in touch at TFHBS on Twitter. Obviously, the Football History Boys on Facebook. The website, www.thefootballhistoryboys.com. Or give us an email to thefootballhistoryboys@hotmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed that.
We will see you again very soon. Goodbye.
Very soon.